Welcome. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, your anger. And the parts of you that are not yet ready to be seen and heard, welcome to them as well. For we are people of faith, faith in our expansive welcome, faith in our ability to grow, faith in the precious gift of our truths, faith in the promise of trying, learning, changing, faith in our capacity to know ourselves and each other ever deeply. Welcome to you who are gay, straight, bi, pan, lesbian, queer, questioning, unable to be contained in any word. Welcome to you who are trans, cis, genderqueer, non-binary, intersex, agender, beyond words. Welcome to you who are human. Welcome to you who love and are loved. Welcome to you who are blessed, which is all of you. May this time together be a blessing. How's your week been? If, like mine, a lot of work, more than anticipated, some moments of sadness and sorrow, some moments that lifted me to the clouds in joy. Such are most of our days, which is why if you feel called to celebrate that joy or lessen that sorrow, or for whatever personal reason you may carry this morning, please come light a candle while we listen to Dan play the prelude. Now please stand and body your spirit as we gather to light our chalice and remind ourselves once again of the aspiration of our faith, the spoken affirmation. This is a chalice lighting for when things aren't okay. It's by the Reverend Molly Brewer. My beloved people, I cannot pretend, and so I will not tell you that everything is okay right now, that there is no reason to be angry, that you must be optimistic or at peace. I cannot pretend these things, and so I won't tell them to you. But now our chalice is lit, and so all I ask in this moment is that we remember the words of Rebecca Parker. There is a love holding us, there is a love holding all. By the light of our chalice, let us rest in this love. You're invited, if you wish, to join in saying our spoken affirmation. The words are in the morning program. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. Please be seated. To set the theme for this morning, here are these words from a Washington Post article dated January 8, 2016. Singular they, the gender-neutral pronoun, has been named the word of the year by a crowd of over 200 linguists at the American Dialect Society's annual meeting in Washington, D.C. on Friday evening. In a landslide vote, the language experts chose singular they over thanks Obama, amosexual, on fleek, and other contenders for this year's annual award given to the most significant term or word in the past year. Singular they, which the Post officially adopted in its style guide in 2015, is already a common habit in American speech. An example, everyone wants their cat to succeed. Earlier, the so-called proper way to say it would have been, everyone wants his or her cat to succeed. But what gave this word new prominence was its usefulness as a way to refer to people who don't want to be called he or she. We know about singular they already. We use it every day without thinking about it. So this is bringing it to the fore in a more conscious way and also playing into emerging ideas about gender identity, said linguist Ben Zimmer, language columnist for the Wall Street Journal, who presided over the voting this Friday afternoon. Old-fashioned grammarians will be disappointed, but others will be shouting, yes. Earlier Friday, Zimmer said a win for singular they would also symbolize how Main Street culture has come to recognize and accept transgender and gender-fluid people, some of whom reject traditional pronouns. It encapsulates different trends that are going on in the language, he says. It's a way of identifying something that's going on in the language, which ties to issues of gender identity and speaks to other ways that people are using language to express themselves and present their identity. Now kindly rise in body or spirit as together we sing number 112 in the gray hymnal, Do You Hear?
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear,
Our first reading this morning comes from the June 9th Braver Wiser, the UUA's weekly message of courage and compassion. It's called Nudging Us Toward Life by Lee Ken V, They, Them. They serve as an intern minister at First Parish Church of Groton, Massachusetts, and a hospice music therapist. They parent 2 complicated kids, ages 17 and 22, and live waiting for the next hilarious thing to happen. It always does. They write, 30 years ago, the pink triangle button pinned on my jacket identified me as queer. My t-shirt said, "Silence equals death," and "No on 9. An evangelical right-wing group had gotten an initiative on the ballot proposing to amend the Oregon Constitution to ban LGBTQ plus civil rights protections and to label us abnormal, wrong, unnatural, and perverse. Already deep in the fight against AIDS, our community was plunged into a dehumanizing, demeaning debate about whether we were dangerous sexual predators. The stakes were high. The intense homophobia and fear of danger were real. One day, as I pulled into a gas station where I wasn't sure I was safe being out, I found myself taking my pink triangle button off my jacket, although nothing about how I looked didn't signal dyke. After I drove away, I was flooded with a sense of regret. This was not how I wanted to be. I believed with all my heart that persistent, obvious queer presence would save us, and I had betrayed my heart. I couldn't shake the feeling, and soon I sewed pink triangle patches onto my jackets and clothes. Invisibility equals silence. Silence equals death. Decades later, I figured out I'm trans non-binary. Embracing this has brought tremendous joy and energy and has deepened my authenticity with the world. Using they, them, their pronouns reminds me of that pink triangle patch. Every day I face the question, do I assert, request, correct, here, now? Each time I'm able to answer yes, I experience a tiny sense of nudging us toward life. Now, one of our political parties is busy pushing waves of bills targeting and oppressing trans and non-binary people and their families through legislatures across the country. The stakes are still high all around. As Jewish author and activist Emma Lazarus taught us back in 1883, until we are all free, none of us are free. The Braver Wiser selections always end in a brief prayer. God of all the names and no name at all, help me live in gratitude for the LGBTQ plus ancestors who paved this road we walk and roll on. Stay with me when I'm feeling scared and doing brave, nudging us forward. Our weekly practices are a time for us to pause and share in the common custom of prayer, meditation, and personal thought. Practices start with a selected thought or meditation or prayer, followed by silence for a time, and then a musical response to call us back together again. Today, practices start with a selection from the writing of the Reverend Liz Weber, a petition she calls for all that is our life. Spirit of life, help us to be present with all that is our life, both our deepest sorrows and our greatest joys, so that we can truly live, engaging fully in our own life and in our community. Spirit of community, help us know how linked we are, how each one of our cares touches us all. Help us to ask for support when we are in need and offer our support to others when we are able, so that we may rest in the solace of one another's love. Spirit of love, help us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, so that we might fully embody love and resist hatred. Spirit of resistance. Help us to stick up for what is right, even when we are tired or afraid. Help us to dream of the world as it should be and act to bring that world about. Help us to find hope each day. Spirit of hope. Help us through this day and each day. Help us to be present for all that is our life. For all this we pray, amen, and blessed be. Let us now practice sitting in shared stillness for a time. Changing your mind when presented with new information is a sign of intelligence. That's a blog piece by Tim Denning, whose subtitle advises, "Don't undervalue pointless information. New information doesn't provide its value to you when you discover it." He writes, "I have changed my mind a lot over the last few years. It upsets people. They expect me to stand by an opinion for centuries. It isn't going to happen. Holding on to opinions makes you a dinosaur. Learning to change your thinking as many times as you want is badass. A fixed mindset makes you think you're always right. A flexible mindset helps you change the world. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, love him or hate him, says the ability for a person to change their mind in the face of new evidence is what he believes to be the #1 sign of intelligence. Stanford University professor Paul Sappho has a simpler way to think about intelligence. Have a strong opinion weakly held, because this framework allows your mind room to change. Open-minded people understand that our thoughts change over time. They won't crucify us because of a change in opinion over the best type of milk to put on your frothy double mocha. I surprise a lot of people at work by saying, I hire for open-mindedness. It's the truth, though. I hunt out open-mindedness when hiring people because a fixed mind is extremely difficult to change. In a world where the entire society can be shifted by an invisible virus overnight, I need folks who can throw away the rule book. Besides, people don't remember 99% of what you say. So to talk in absolutes is silly. There is no right or wrong. There's just an interpretation of an event endured by humans. What's right in one person's mind, based on their upbringing and culture, could be totally different for somebody who grew up without a roof over their head and a slab of concrete as their pillow. Learn to love having your opinions crushed to tiny pieces. Learn for the hell of it, because learning is how you keep an open mind. Learning is just challenging what you already know. It's fulfilling to learn. It's cool to understand your 2010 self was a moron. Intelligent people proactively seek out new information to level up their thinking. This process doesn't end. Human information is limitless. Human potential is limitless. Human experiences are limitless. And don't undervalue pointless information. New information doesn't provide its value to you instantly when you discover it. Seemingly pointless information can help you join the dots in another area of your life, providing priceless benefits. To be wrong is the greatest feeling in the world. Don't fear being wrong. Practice being open-minded enough to change your mind. Changing your mind gives you access to opportunities you could never have dreamed of. Now, if you'll kindly rise in body or spirit as together we sing number 1053 in the teal hymnal, How Could Anyone?
How could anyone ever tell you you're anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How can anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
That was louder than I expected to be. Hey everyone. As many of you know, my name is Adrian, I am non-binary, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm up here today because I am frequently misgendered by this church. I want to believe that you don't have ill intentions. I want to believe that by insisting on grammar rules that aren't accurate by today's standards, you are simply ignorant rather than hateful. That's why, despite how upset it makes me, I'm not going to give you all the angry, rough draft of this speech. Instead, I want to give you an inside view of what being misgendered feels like.
Kitchen.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Take your time. We're in no rush.
Oh, it's sir, actually.
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. No rush.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am. It's sir, actually. Could you get us more water?
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's your guys' bill.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You're such a good server.
It's sir, actually.
What?
It's sir. I'm a boy.
Really?
Oh, you certainly don't look like one. Are you sure? I'll be right back to pick up your check. Here is your food.
Thank you. We appreciate it. You're such a good waitress.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a good day, you guys. Ma'am, could we please have some 57 sauce? Absolutely. I'll go back right to the kitchen for you and get it.
Hey, miss, my steak was supposed to be medium well, and it's like rare.
Oh, I'll go fix that for you right away.
People have been misgendering me literally all day. Oh my god, there's no end in sight.
Why don't you just correct them? You know, I mean, I'm sure people will be understanding if they knew. Minnesota's not that bad about things. Yeah, I'm just tired.
Well, if that's what you'd like to order, I will go ahead and take your menus from you, and I'll plug it back into the kitchen.
Thank you so much.
And then this is my artwork. I made this as another illustration to go behind me while I continue speaking. Being misgendered is never just once. When a trans person goes off at you for your simple mistake, keep in mind how many times they might have had to hear it that day. And they expected better from you, an ally, maybe even a friend. Or when a trans person doesn't say anything in a conversation when someone misgenders them. It's not that they don't care. It's not that it doesn't hurt, but that they're simply too tired to keep saying something every time. So what can you do when you've caught yourself or someone else misgendering someone? I found a post on Instagram from a user named Ty Draws, and instead of making you sit here and read it quietly like I'm already doing, I offer the mediocre acting skills of myself and Thomas, whose pronouns are he, him. It's titled, How to Do Better at Getting Pronouns Right. No more, oh, I'm trying, but it's just really hard. Number 1, when you slip up, correct yourself and briefly move on.
When I first met Lily, Aiden, he was literally doing a handstand on a skateboard.
2, when someone corrects you, say thank you and just move on swiftly.
I hadn't even finished yet and he already...
They.
Right, thanks. They had already gotten 8 ready.
3, get in the habit of interrupting people with a quick correction. Yes, every time. What is she doing? That looks...
He.
Oh, yeah. Whatever he's doing looks weird. It sets a good precedent, lifts some burden off of trans people, and makes it easier to catch yourself. 4, for every time you get it wrong, do it right 3 times. Like saying 3 compliments. It does not have to be out loud. You can do this in your head.
I should go pick up Jackson. Oh, shoot, Jax. Their name is Jax. They have been exceptionally patient with me today, and they are wearing lovely earrings.
Number 5, consider meeting with someone to practice. Go for coffee with a mutual friend and correct each other until you get it. So her pronouns are they, them. Wait, their pronouns.
We really have to practice so we can get this right for them.
Totally. 6, don't make anyone feel like a burden for having pronouns you're struggling with. Do not say, oh, it's just really hard. Instead, you could say, thank you for sharing your authentic self with me. I'm learning and I appreciate it. And number 7, don't make them alleviate your guilt. If you get it wrong, do not apologize profusely, because that puts the other person in the position of having to say it's okay, putting their own feelings aside to make you feel better or stop apologizing. Express your love and learn. And now I'm going to address the folks who insist that they, them is exclusively plural, with a few quotes from some authors and then a dictionary definition. You want to start or want me to start?
Oh, I'm doing the first one.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
Oh, wait, that one's Shakespeare. Okay. 'Tis meet that some more audience than a mother, since nature makes them partial, should o'erhear the speech. William Shakespeare.
I would have everybody marry if they can do it properly. Jane Austen.
It is too hideous for anyone in their senses to buy. W.H. Auden.
Almost anyone under the circumstances would have doubted if the letter were theirs, or indeed if they were themselves. But to us it was clear. Emily Dickinson.
And then, you're good now. If you want to go, you don't have to keep standing up here while you. And this is the Merriam-Webster definition of they. Most of you, I'm sure, know those ones, plural. But if we scroll down, it can also be used to refer to people in a general way, or used with a singular indefinite pronoun, used with a singular to refer to an unknown or unspecified person, used to refer to a person whose gender is intentionally not revealed, or used to refer to a single person whose gender identity is non-binary. This is they, them still appropriate to use as a plural pronoun? Of course, it's still in the dictionary, but it's also been used as a singular for longer than anyone in this room has been alive, unless any of you are older than Shakespeare, in which, good job. Merriam-Webster has several examples of the singular they in their dictionaries, and specifically added the definition to include non-binary, this last one, in September of 2019. Different from earlier definitions that indicated use for when a person's gender is unknown or irrelevant. The American Psychological Association also recognizes the singular they, advocating for the use of it to be inclusive of all people and help both readers and writers avoid making assumptions about gender. If you are still taking issue to this, with me or anyone else using they, them pronouns, I want to be very clear. You are being transphobic. You cannot continue to claim grammar rules. Hell, you cannot continue to claim that how or when you were raised makes it so that you cannot learn. There are non-binary people with they, them pronouns as old as you. Some older, I'm sure. They had to learn too. None of us, they didn't just come out as non-binary and just fluidly. Most non-binary people I know, most trans people I know, at some point have accidentally misgendered themselves because they're still in that same mental space that you all were raised in. We were all raised in the same society. That said, I do have another set of pronouns I use, fey, fair. This is what's known as a neopronoun. There are many neopronouns in the English language, and they too have been around, and some of them anyway, have been around for longer than anyone in this room, which I'm sure comes as a surprise to many. For example, ne, nim pronouns first appeared in print in 1884. Thons pronouns were proposed in 1858 and later included in Webster's International Dictionary in 1910. Many other neopronouns have been documented for decades as well, including ze, zim, am, ze, her, and my own fey, fair. So, if you do feel so inclined to only ever use they, them as a plural, you're absolutely welcome to look up a guide for neopronoun use. Or you can just say Adrian every time. Pronouns are optional. Their pronouns as a grammar tool are used to replace a noun. So if you just want to continue using the noun, that's acceptable too. And as far as making assumptions about everyone's pronouns, just don't. When you introduce yourself, include your pronouns and leave space for the people you're talking to do the same. Hi, my name's Adrian and my pronouns are they, them. How may I address you? Or spice it up so that it feels more natural to you. In fact, let's all practice right now. Turn to the folks around you, walk if you have to. If you're on Zoom, I'm sure you can type, and introduce yourself. Remember, out in the world, not everyone will reply with their pronouns, but by stating yours, you're showing to others, especially trans people, that you're a safe person for folks whose pronouns might not be so obvious. Go. Making you walk. And now, I would like to open up for questions. Hold on. I can answer questions about my non-binary identity, struggles I have had with pronouns, or even those weird invasive questions that you don't want to ask without explicit permission to do so. This is your go-ahead to have them answered.
And I am also open to questions about my experience as a trans man. I've been transitioning for 8 years, so if you want to ask how that has affected my life, all those invasive questions you might be afraid to ask as well, this is your go-ahead.
And then folks on Zoom, you are welcome to type out your questions, and we will have somebody in the computer area speak them aloud for you. You're good.
So my question is, folks, F-O-L-X,
Yes.
how do you use that?
So there's actually a lot of debate around the term folks spelled like that. For me, I am perfectly fine with F-O-L-K-S because it's already a gender neutral term. Some people use the X to specifically signify that they're including non-binary people. And the X would signify that because people use an X gender marker to, for example, driver's licenses, commonly used non-binary honorific would be MX instead of MR or MS. So oftentimes the X is seen as a neutral, yeah.
That would be pronounced mix, by the way.
Or MUX. I've also seen it MUX.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I go by mux?
You
That sounds
can.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go for it.
Doing some exploring up here, folks.
Yeah. Anybody? You can ask anything.
I've often wondered why you wear the hat with ears.
Me? Well, 2 reasons. Main one, I like bears. If you talk to me for more than 2 seconds, you will know that and beg me to stop talking about it. Second reason, and this is really strange, but it works. I want to be so unrecognizable without this hat that if I leave the house without it, no one recognizes me and I don't have to talk to anyone. And it works, it does. So,
So the hat means okay to approach.
yes, it means I am safe.
Okay.
If you see me without the hat, I'm dangerous.
I want to thank you both for doing this. This has been very instructive, and I appreciate it. I want to ask if either of you has ever been in a situation where you have told somebody that your pronoun is preferred they or them or whatever, and you have gotten a really hostile reaction to it.
You want to go first?
Do you want me to?
Go for it.
Yeah, several times, actually. Most of them were in high school, but there have been several outside of that, including with my own family, with people I thought were my friends, people I trusted dearly. It's happened so many times, I could not count it. And there were a few times where the hostility was not just verbal, so.
As for me, it's not common for me to correct people that I don't know. That said, when introducing myself, I've gotten weird looks, I've gotten completely blown off. There's just, I've had people tell me that's not a thing, that I need to pick one. And I'm just like, I did pick one. There's plenty of people that will tell you non-binary genders don't exist. I used to be one of those people. If I'm being honest, in high school, high school with me would make fun of current me a lot. I don't like high school me either.
I don't think anyone likes high school them.
Yeah.
Do any of you like high school you? Exactly.
If so, good on you.
Yeah, great work.
Online, people get more bold about their hatefulness.
Oh, yeah.
I have been told to end my own life over it. For even being like, I'm not a girl. I've been told to end my life because I've told someone I'm not a girl.
Oh, yeah. The threats and harassment you get online for being trans, just because those people feel safe behind a screen, can get so much worse. What I talked about was all IRL. The things that I have been told online are far too graphic and explicit for me to even want to mention to all of you.
And that said, that's why it's really important to stand up when you see somebody being transphobic, when you see someone being aggressive about pronouns. And it's why it's important for cisgendered people to make it normal to introduce yourself with your pronouns, so that when a trans person does so, they are not outing themselves. Because as it is, that's kind of how it is. So if cis people make it normal, then it becomes safe. So we don't want those online threats to, I don't want them ever getting bold enough. We have a microphone going around.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, you would instantly feel at ease if I introduce myself or to a non-binary person and say, hi, my name is Dan, my pronouns are he, him.
Yes.
And would that signal
Yes.
right away that I'm a safe person to talk to?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Great.
you are saying that when you introduce yourself with your pronouns, you are saying, I don't think pronouns are inherently an obvious thing. Like, you can't look at a person and know their pronouns. Some days I will come in here wearing a dress. Nobody asked. Some days I will come in here wearing a dress. I have a pin on my shorts right now because I didn't want to cover up my shirt that says clothes have no gender. That is to say that anyone of any gender and therefore any pronouns can wear anything. People can have any hair, any sort of facial hair. The existence of breasts, for example, does not indicate someone's gender or pronouns. So by introducing yourself with your pronouns, you are not just indicating who you are, you are indicating, I don't think it's obvious who I am without me stating so, if that makes sense. Is there anybody in the Zoom call that have any questions? Okay, just making sure. I didn't want them getting left out if so. I don't even know if there's anybody there. Hi if you are. Okay.
So the example they were showing, where that they said, "Hey, miss," you know, like I'm taking that would be like at a restaurant or something.
Yes, the skit
So
was at a restaurant.
What would be then if it were you, Adrian, that was that waitress, then you would say to me, "My name is Adrian, and I identify as he," right?
Well, for
Is
me,
that
it's
the way
they.
you'd say that? No,
They.
they, them.
Yes.
Okay. So the
So
right.
that example was from a trans man. I found, there's an app called TikTok. This specific person was one of the few. I'd asked several people. I saw videos that were relevant to being like the topic of misgendering. So I had asked a few people, like, hey, can I play your video at my church to help, like, demonstrate this? And this person responded saying, yeah, go for it. Tell me how it goes. So I get to look forward to that, too. Yeah. So I didn't have a person who was non-binary with the same thing. I'm sure one exists out there. I just didn't happen to find it in my allotted time frame. But as far as, like, when addressing a person that you don't know, or, like, in a server situation, honestly, if you're in a restaurant and you go, excuse me, the nearest server is going to come to you. Like, whoever you're waving down, like, you don't have to say Miss or Mrs. because, or Miss or Mr., Sir, especially in a restaurant setting. Like, they won't, the first person nearby is going to be the one that comes to you anyway if they're a good restaurant. I've worked at bad restaurants, but they're supposed to work as a team. So in a setting like that, you can just say, excuse me. You can often, in most situations, you can leave off the sir, ma'am, like, say, if you see somebody leaving their book behind, you can say, excuse me, you in the white shirt. You don't have to say, excuse me, sir. Because, one, you in the white shirt, the individual with the white shirt is gonna, like, anyone in the area with a white shirt is gonna pick up on that, rather than anyone who identifies as sir will pick up on that, you know? So I forget the origin question.
That was a good answer. I
I hope I answered the question. I forget what it was now.
If I was trying to be correct, then I would be like, hey, you
Yeah.
know, and I know that's rude, okay,
Yeah,
so.
but yeah, you can say, I mean, some situations you can say, hey, you.
Servers have heard worse in restaurants than "Hey, you."
Yeah.
That's considered polite in most restaurants.
But yeah, just saying excuse me, because it's the same level of politeness without the gendering involved. And of course, you can always ask people when it comes up, like, hey, what honorifics do you use? How would you like me to address you in other ways? For example, I know a lot of non-binary people, when their siblings have kids, they're like, hey, how do you want my kids to address you? Because usually the default is aunt and uncle. And there's a lot of different options for, like, a neutral instead of aunt or uncle. I've seen pibbling, which is parent-sibling.
I'm sorry, my brain went aunt.
Aunt, actually, yes, I have heard that one.
No way.
Yes. I've also heard uncle, like aunt, uncle put together. So, like, that's a situation where when you know somebody and you are going to be addressing them multiple times, you can just ask them. Most people are really open to that. Just be like, hey, how would I, like, abbreviate your, I think it's just called an honorific at the beginning of, like, Mr., Mrs. Yeah.
I have an addition to that when you're.
Go for it.
Okay. If you do ask a person for their pronouns, if you are in a group setting, I would try to, it's very important to be careful where and when you do that. Ideally, you would want the person to be, I don't want to say alone, because that makes it sound kind of creepy, like you corner them in an alley, like, hey, what are your pronouns?
That's not how I'm supposed to do it.
Well, that's how I did it with you, right? But if you do it in a way where they're in a group setting, it might not necessarily be safe for them to answer that question. You could potentially be outing them and thus exposing them to danger. So it's important to be careful with how you do that. Just do your best to read the room, so to speak.
Another thing, it's pronouns, not preferred pronouns. How you are addressed is not a preference. For example, if someone says, my name's Robert, but please call me Bob, that is not a preference. Call them Bob. Like, nobody bats an eye when that's said. When I say, my name is Adrian and my pronouns are they, them, that is not a preference. A preference implies there are other options. And I mean, in my case, I have neopronouns, but those, it's pick one or the other. It's not, you have the option to choose something else if you want to. We had a question over here. Sorry.
Question is for Dan. Yes, in Spanish. How do you do this without having female and male? Everything they say is gender effective.
It's a great question, because it does come up. Not so much in the beginning Spanish courses, but yes, every noun is gendered in Spanish. It is either masculine or feminine. There are a few nouns that are unmarked. It could be either masculine or feminine. But modern Spanish speakers, particularly in Argentina, have begun to replace typical O and A ending, O usually marking masculine, A usually marking feminine. Many young people, non-binary people, have started using an unmarked E. So, for example, to refer to the uncle, it's tío, marked, gender marked with O at the A. Aunt is tía, okay? So what would you call the sibling of your parent? I was thinking they could call tie, T-I-E. The vowel E in Spanish is the most common vowel in Spanish, and it is not specifically tied to either gender marking in Spanish. And this is also true in Italian, Portuguese, French. They have gender marking, although it's less obvious in French. It's mostly, you hear it mostly through, or see it mostly through spelling. I don't know what they're doing in German, which has 3 genders. There's a neuter gender that in cases is frequently used for adult people. Fräulein, for example, is grammatically marked as neuter. So I don't know how other languages are approaching it, but Spanish, innovative Spanish speakers are adopting a non-gender marked E instead of O and A. So it's a great question. But no, le, L-E and L-E-S, that might be, I don't know what a definite article is in those cases. I haven't plunged into that particular topic very much, but it's a very small. It's growing, and it's most noted in Argentina, as far as I can tell, being very forward-looking in the language that way. So.
That was very informative, thank you.
I knew some of that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew none of it.
Well, now we're all learning.
I took French in high school. Don't ask me anything about French because I don't know anything.
I looked it up in German, and what they've done is created a gender-neutral version to words, but the pronouns are Zier, X-I-E-R, Zieser, Ziem, Zine, Zies, Zisa, Zisum, and then they can use dear and diem and dear, which are already gender-neutral pronouns in use in the language. So they've actually added to the German language.
Okay. This is something that hasn't come up at all, and it seems more important to me than the pronouns,
Okay.
which I am working on, and I'm not supposed to say that it's hard for me, but I'm pushing 80 years old, and when you're pushing 80 years old, you will know that it is harder to do new things. However, one thing I have always done, and hope I will always do, is what I did when you came here. I rejoiced. I gave you my love and support in many ways that you don't even know about, and so did everyone else here. We have genuinely given it our best shot to let you know always that you're loved and supported. And I hope you feel that, because the only comments I've heard from you is that we are hateful. I've heard so many things, and I have not heard you say that you love us back. I would love to hear that.
I would not have given this service today if I didn't see good in all of you, if I didn't appreciate all of you. I very specifically started my speech today saying I didn't want to believe you all were hateful, that I want to believe that you just don't know better. That said, I have been out to this church for 2 years. More than that, probably. My pronouns have been they, them for over 2 years. So that's where my anger and frustration comes from, is that, yes, I know it takes time to learn. That's why I didn't make a big thing about it before now, because I know it takes time to learn. And I wanted to give that time. But it's been years. And if gentle nudges weren't doing the trick, so that's where the anger comes from, because I'm frustrated that people who I know care about me are harming me in this way. People who I know want to do better are, for some reason, not. And yeah. Like I said, I would not, if I thought that the reason that I was being misgendered was out of hate or spite, I would not have continued coming here. So, I hope that helps. Hey, buddy, come here. You come over this side. Come here. This is Marko. As many of you know. I think he's signifying that that's my time. But I can continue answering questions after we are in the eating area.
Thank you both for doing that. As always, we pause this morning so that those who wish may bring their gifts to the table, or you can always give on the church mobile app. Our closing song this morning is number 325 in the gray hymnal, Love Makes a Bridge. Please rise in body or spirit if you would, and remain standing for the parting thought and extinguishing the chalice.
Love makes a bridge from heart to heart and hand to hand. Love finds a way when laws are blind and freedom banned. Love breaks the walls of language, gender, class, and age. Love gives us wings to sing at the bars of every cage. Love lifts the hopes that force and fear have beaten down. Love breaks the chains and gives us strength to stand our ground. Love rings the bells of wanted birth and wedding day. Love guides Love makes a bridge that winds may shake and yet destroy. Love fills the flame
You and I have so much love that it burns like a fire in which we bake a lump of clay, mold it into a figure of you and a figure of me. Then we take both of them, break them into pieces, and mix the pieces with water, and mold again a figure of you and a figure of me. I am in your clay, you are in my clay. In life, we share a single quilt. In death, we share one coffin. Now join me as together we say the words to extinguish the chalice. They're in the morning program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.